Welcome to a Monday on Restoring Hope Live. Tough day today. Going to be a show I hope you learn a lot about addiction and recovery.
Open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope. Open my eyes to see the world through different eyes, revealing your light, restoring hope.
Good afternoon. It is a day like no other, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. We're going to have some tough conversations today. There is no special guest today. There's no one telling their story. We cleared the calendar. And we're going to talk about the horrible downside of the consequences of this disease, alcohol and drug abuse. You know, we come on here every week on Restoring Hope Live Recovery Mondays, and we have a guest come on. And it's always got a happy ending because this person tells us what their life was like before, what happened, and what their life is like now. And that always ends up with some medallion representing weeks, months, years of sobriety. It always represents, not always, but most usually represents the rekindling of affection and family, relationships that were estranged, maybe dead. It rekindles an opportunity to be redeemed in your faith, to once again believe that you're good enough, that it's worth living, and that it's worth living sober. I don't know how many times a newcomer comes up to me and says, I just don't think I'll ever have any fun anymore. And I remember thinking that myself. And now I can honestly look at somebody and say, you know what, you're going to learn to have more fun than you've ever had before. Because before it was tied to alcohol. And once you took that first drink, you were on your road down to not having fun. Because it never ends well. Drunkenness never ends well. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Of course, my co-host, Lila Stafford, from Unity Point and Powell CDC. If you're within the sound of my voice, no matter where you are, you have a friend, you have a group of people, physicians and experts who know exactly how to deal with the problem you're dealing with. And I know you're thinking, oh, no, but nobody knows what I go through. It's just me. Nobody can be as bad as I can. Nobody did what I did on Saturday night last Saturday. It was just terrible. I could never share it with anybody. It's the worst thing I've ever done, and alcohol made me do it, and I just can't. I think I have a problem. And you'll call Lila Stafford at Unity Point, or you'll call somebody over there, and they'll say, yeah, that happens a lot. And all of a sudden, you'll begin to see the similarities between those of us who have not stopped drinking and those of us who have. Those of us who have put the plug in the jug and surrendered to the God of our understanding to those who haven't. And today's show is going to be a stark reminder of some of those people. So, Lila, welcome. And Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat watching the chat, welcome. Bob is a former, I want to call you a CSI. Is that correct?
Well, I did CSI for about 10 years, but I'm a forensic scientist.
Forensic scientist. And without blowing anybody's horn too loud, I won't say what I think of you. I'll tell you what other people think of you. You are one of the most sought-after expert witnesses in the country when it comes to alcohol.
Well, if I tell them I'm available, then they'll call.
But you've not protested. You've given testimony to hundreds of trials involving alcohol.
1,000 trials.
1,000. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we got a pretty good panel here. I'm just a guy with the voice who knows how to get us from A to B. The smart ones are to my left. And the other smart guy is Ryan. He's producing. He makes us look good. We appreciate that. You can find us many places. RestoringHopeLive.com. WebcastOneLive.com. I don't want to give you too many places, but we make it very simple to find us. You know, one of the things I hate, when you go to a media company, a lot of times, and you get on their website, they've got fly-ins and pop-ups and rollovers and click on this and tell us your age and how old you are. And by the time you finally get to the information, your browser is so filled with cookies that you just want to shut the computer off and say, forget it. Not on ours. Not one pop-up, not one cookie, not one rollover, not one survey. You go to our websites and you'll find exactly what you're looking for. Information about us, information how to get help, and how to watch and listen to the previously recorded shows. So, Lila, can you recall, Bob, same thing for you. I want you both to think about this. A funeral that you've gone to in the past and that person didn't put the plug in the jug, didn't get help or had help and walked away and was laying in that box or a pound of ashes because they didn't heed the warnings and the treatment and the love that was all around them.
Yeah.
I don't want to name, but just tell me about that.
Well, there's lots of them.
Yeah, how many over the years? One a year?
Well, minimum one a year.
Okay. So that
was probably the biggest shock to me when I came to work for Powell, because there's so many people that get the help and then choose not to use the help.
Yeah.
So it's a minimum of once a year, but I would say a lot more than that.
All right, now I don't want to put you in the tough spot because you represent Powell. So if this is my statement and not yours, this is not the opinion of Lila Stafford, Unity Point, Bob Montserrat, or anything like that. But these people choose to die.
Well, I don't think they necessarily know that's what they're doing. They're choosing to drink.
But we tell them.
I know, but people with addictions are in such denial, and they've gotten by so long without big consequences. I mean, just recently, I went to yesterday. I went to a memorial service. This kid died December 24th, and there was a funeral then. But today is this kid's birthday, and his family's just devastated that he had died. So they had a kind of a reunion of all of his friends and his family at the cemetery, and let off balloons in his honor, and then went over to their house and had a big cake with the kid's name on it, and it was so sad. And
when you say kid, how old? Roughly.
He 21.
Oh my gosh.
And the father of this child, when we were at the cemetery, pointed out 2 more grave sites of 20-year-olds that have recently died, one from a heroin addiction and the other one was murdered, both having to do with drugs. And just in a row.
How did this young man die?
He, I think, accidentally OD'd.
Okay.
Whenever you put alcohol with another downer, I mean, you don't know what it's going to do to you, and you get too much of that in your body, and it slows everything down and slows your heart down. You die.
Bob, you're the scientific expert here. Unpack what Lila just said biologically.
Well, there's a synergistic effect between alcohol and other different drugs that could quadruple the effects. And she was mentioning, stopping the heart, or a lot of times what it is you stop breathing. And then your heart eventually fails.
Yeah.
But it suppresses all your automatic systems. We automatically will breathe. We don't have to think about it. And so it's something that our brain is set up to do, so we can go to sleep and not forget to, breathe. But with the drugs, even alcohol at high levels, for instance, usually between 400 and 500 alcohol level, 0.4.
So 0.4 to 0.5
is usually fatal.
Okay.
For most people. There are exceptions that people go higher than that. But basically, they stop breathing. And because alcohol is toxic, it's a toxic substance. Your body sees it that way. It sees it as a poison. And so it tries to process it and break it down to eliminate it from the body.
Did you hear what he just said? That to the body, the thing that you and I loved and cherished and lived for, the body sees as poison.
Yeah.
Now, how messed up is that?
Yeah.
Right.
That blows me away.
Right. And so the body is going to try to purify itself and get rid of that drug or any other substance that you get into. Herbicides, insecticides, your body's trying to get that poison out of you. So alcohol is just another poison to the body, and people like it because it causes mind-altering effects. And for me, when I worked for the state, I would see cases come across my desk all the time. Vehicular homicides involving alcohol, people that are consuming alcohol or overdosing and dying. So for me, even though I don't know the people, I see that we're investigating that death or car crash. I don't like to call them accidents
Yeah.
because it's caused by somebody drinking or doing drugs and going out there and taking a chance.
All right, so to the question that I posed to Lila earlier, someone who knows the consequences of continually drinking at the level they're drinking, they choose to die?
Well, I think they believe that they may be one of the exceptions to the rule.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, I agree with
The
that.
ego is so big.
Yeah.
Right. And
Not
and-
me. That couldn't happen. I know when to quit.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, some people can't have 10 or 11 or 12. I can, but the 13th, so I don't have the 13th.
I mean, look at George Burns. He smoked cigars all his life. He smoked cigarettes. And
Yeah.
look at that. He lived to be 100. You know, and he drank alcohol all the time. So I could be that one person that made it to 100 doing all the bad things to my body.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's going to take you down. My father was one that developed cancer, pancreatic cancer, which turned into liver cancer. And it's directly related to smoking and drinking. He was an alcoholic.
If someone has pancreatic, liver, or what's the other part that shuts down because of alcohol? Anyway.
Well,
if it-
liver, of course, is the one that has to process the alcohol, and many times alcoholics, if they don't get cancer, they get cirrhosis of the liver.
All right. So pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, kidneys?
Well, colon cancer is probably related.
When we hear people who die of that, what's the percentage that it was alcohol or drug involved?
Well, I think it's pretty high.
So in other words, does a non-drinker get liver cancer?
Yes, yeah. Every cancer that's out there, somebody is going to get it, even if they're not doing the bad things.
Okay.
But the bad things will double, triple, quadruple your chances of getting that. They have these studies that that they do
Yeah.
that they can increase. You can increase your chances of getting something if you do this. And of course, I'm talking about alcoholism, where people are drinking and not taking care of themselves, which is
Drinking and not taking...
right. They're not
Okay,
taking
hold
care
on.
of their health.
Who drinks and take care of themselves? Lila, that's not possible, is it? Or am I fooled here?
No, well, I have a friend right now who I was just thinking about this on the way over here, who only eats whole foods and makes fun of people that eat, sugar, any of that stuff. So she's
Yeah.
very picky about that, but she drinks too much. So it's like, this doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make sense because it's a carbohydrate.
Yeah.
You
Have
know.
you said that to her?
Yeah.
And what does she say?
She agrees until she starts drinking. And then it's like, I'm crazy.
It's a
But
denial.
I've seen this a lot. I remember being on a raft trip one time with a bunch of druggies, and I was the only one not doing drugs. And the rest, they were mad at me because I was eating Hershey bars and telling me how bad it was for me. And they were all doing cocaine the whole trip.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
denial.
Yeah.
The boy that passed away. Did Dad and Mom, they got it, didn't they?
Oh, yeah.
They understood why. Mm-hmm. I bet they're on a mission, aren't they?
Yes. And so am I because of that. I've started an aftercare group just for 20-some-year-olds.
Yeah, I know you have.
Because of that. And because there was another one that I was really close to the year before that who had problems with his pancreas because of drinking. And everyone thought he was doing okay. And, they found him dead in bed.
Wow. Sorry. Sunshine on my shoulders doesn't always work when it comes to this disease. Today's show is dedicated to those that didn't make it, and we're going to highlight a few. I've been to too many funerals in the last month, and I want to share with you the anguish, the front row seat to some of that anguish when we come back live here on Restoring Hope Live, brought to you by Powell CDC and Unity Point.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
21 minutes after the hour, if you're live this afternoon, thank you very much. We appreciate you. If you're listening to this on the radio on 99.3, if you haven't heard, great news. Great news. 99.3 is expanding our coverage area. Now, I can technically explain to you how that works, but I don't think you really care. But it took us 4 years. It took us 4 years and 9 hearings or so to be able to get the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, to say, okay, if you expand your signal, 99.3, you won't interfere with other 99.3s, and you won't interfere with other stations that's close to you. Some of those had to move. One of your favorite Christian rock stations is going to move, the Pulse, 99.5. It's going to have to move. It's going to move to 107 something, I think, or 100.7. So the finagling that has to happen, and all above the table, is quite intense. And last fall, we got the word after two say no, 2 times, no, we won't do this. And we'd go back and say, well, what if we did it this way? And that credit goes to Mike Carbone and Stu Epperson Jr. and Chris Roloff. But anyway, we're expanding. And so sometime here in the next probably 30 to 45 days, if you're a listener of this radio station and you listen to it in your car or your house, you're all of a sudden going to be able to find that, Wendy, when you're driving, you can drive so much further. And, Jack, when you're going to the south side, you won't have to turn to another radio station because you'll get us all the way to Lucas County or you'll get us all the way to the Newton Speedway, or you'll get us all the way to Adair or up to the Boondocks. It's a very difficult thing to get a commercial station. See, we're not for profit. We're not for profit. We have to exist on our advertisers and your donations, because we don't get a not-for-profit status. We pay taxes like everybody else. One of the reasons we do that is so we don't fall under that liberal progressive, oh, you're living off our taxes, so you better be kind to all the people that Jesus didn't, blah, 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 blah. So sometime here in the next 45 days or so, we are currently building studios here in Des Moines, and we'll be live 24/7 with preaching, teaching, and what I call social commentary. Oh, anyway. So thank you for listening. All right. Lila's here today. Bob Monster at the Cat in the Hat's here today. Ryan's here. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job. I couldn't do it without you. Today, I could do it without you. In fact, I wished I could be home and just not doing it all. The guest seat, Ryan, show a camera on the guest seat. It sits empty today. There is no guest because today, thank you, Ryan, over the last couple, 3 weeks, way too many funerals of people who have died from these diseases. And quite frankly, I'm upset. I'm peed off. I had to go to a funeral yesterday, and it's setting not too well with me. So we decided today we'd share some of that. Lila shared a story about a 21-year-old who died, and it was the death of that young man that motivated her to start not a teenager, but a...
No, it's from 17 through 20s. I just think that age they're special.
Yeah.
They have their own things to talk about.
Yeah, and so she started that aftercare program. And but let's go to the phones, because we could not have a show without the verse. Frank Thomas giving us his delight and his input. So, Frank, go ahead. Tell me how you are today.
I'm pretty good, despite the fact I had to go out and cut grass for the first time this year. That didn't make me real happy.
That you had to cut grass?
The first time this year.
Well, get a goat.
This is true. Hey, I want to tell you a true story. Born in 1957, and I'm sure I'm not the only person that this happened to, but being that I'm a fair-complected lad, I had some issues with sinuses and stuff, hay fever, some stuff when I was young and when I was growing up. Had eyes that were very sensitive to light, and I had a lot of family members who smoked. And back in them days, it was full on. You didn't go outside and smoke. The room was full of smoke when I was an infant. So to say the least, I had a little bit of runny noses and plugged up sinuses and stuff as a kid. Now, I've been told this story, and I know I'm not the only one that this has happened to. So if you wonder why the verse may be missing a few brain cells, this might be part of the reason. But my grandparents, and it was not a malicious act, but when I was a lad, they would put probably 3 or 4 ounces in a bottle for me to drink of beer. And,
in a baby bottle?
Pardon?
In a baby bottle?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And you can probably guess the result. It was like probably, I'm guessing, a NyQuil, but because I couldn't breathe and I was cranky and I couldn't sleep, slip 3 or 4 ounces of beer in a baby's bottle, and they guzzle that down. They're going to fall quietly to sleep. Now, I know for a fact what we eat and our diet causes cravings for certain things. So when I hear people say that they were born with a propensity I really question and wonder if that's the case. Now, my father... his father, who would have been my great-grandfather, was said to have liked 3 things. He was said to have liked carousing, drinking, and gambling on horses in particular. My father liked to do all of those things, but my father never met his father because he left before my father was born. I inherited some trait to drink, but did I really inherit it? I was fed beer in a bottle when I was probably 6 months to a year and a half old to put me to sleep. So what I'm saying is, when people develop these problems, are they really born with it, or is it some behavior that we were introduced to at some young period in our life when we didn't know it?
There's a genetic factor involved. I mean, it runs in families.
Alcoholism.
So, yeah.
And they find that gene genetically?
I think so.
I guess that, how would you, thanks Frank for calling. How would you say that?
Or a genetic disposition towards a certain thing, cancer or whatever the case is.
All right.
I don't know if there's a gene link to that. I don't know if there is. I just don't know. I haven't researched that. But I think it's a combination of both: your environment, how you're raised, what you're accustomed to being raised on, and your lineage, and your ancestry, and so forth.
Yeah, both. I didn't drink till I was 34 years old. I mean, I could not get through one alcoholic drink until I was 34 years old. Never went to kegers, just never did that stuff. But yet I was raised around alcoholism, 360 degree, all the way around my family. All right, so I'm adopted. So that must mean it didn't take, because even though I was around it all the time, I didn't drink till I was 34. Well, then I found my biological history, and it was the same thing in my biological family. But why is it that I didn't drink till I was 34? Does that make me an alcoholic or not? What we say in the program, I had all the isms. I had all the traits and characteristics of a person who had drank all their life, even though I didn't start till I was 34.
Well, I think in answer to that, I had alcoholics all around me when I was growing up. But because of what I saw in their behavior and what it did to the family, I chose not to do that. But can I be an alcoholic and start now? I think I could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I don't go that way for many reasons, spiritual being a big part of it.
Now, see, I had it all around me, and I just thought this was like fun.
This is what you did.
Yeah. I didn't know any different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have bad examples around me. It was just...
I didn't either.
Yeah.
It was just probably the same as your family. I mean,
Yeah.
My dad would come home and have a drink, not a drink, probably several drinks when he came home from work every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom and dad used to be a Bud, and then it switched to Coors because we bought a Coors distributorship. And then they'd have 3 or 4 Ancient Age and soda. And
I remember the story with you with the Ancient Age, AA.
Ancient Age, yeah. And I didn't like the taste of colored bourbon. I didn't like the taste of beer. That slow gin, I kind of liked that once, but not really. I don't know why. If I didn't like the fact that it did take away from the way I acted, I think I wanted to be in more control than that. And then when I started drinking at 34, it's because I wanted to be out of control.
Yeah.
I wanted to get away. My identity had been broken because my identity was not in Christ at the time. It was in what I did. And I quit doing what I did, and I thought, well, I think it's time to have a party. I've watched all these other people party all these lives. I've been a paper boy and a disc jockey and everything else, so now I'm going to start drinking. And I went from nothing to 10 overnight.
In high school, did your friends drink? I think that has a big part
I don't know. I mean, I think so.
Well, if you don't know.
Well,
I'm sure they did.
I mean, I didn't go to beer parties.
Yeah.
So, and we had kegers. We had every weekend there was probably a kegger. But I dated a girl from the time before I was 16 until the end of my high school years, the same girl. And she wasn't a drinker, and her family wasn't a drinker. So, and we just sat around and played a lot of John Denver songs,
Oh, yeah.
But and I remember having the key to my parents' liquor cabinet. I knew where it was. And I could get in there and I could taste all these different alcohols. And I could never find one I liked. Now, isn't that interesting? At 14, I'm trying to find an alcohol that I can like because I want to be like Mom and Dad. I want to sit down with Uncle Bill and Uncle Bob and everybody that we got together with. The Hooven, everybody that we were with drank. Except me.
Yeah.
And I just didn't like the taste of it.
I never liked the taste, ever.
Even when you drank?
No.
Did you ever find anything you like the taste of?
That's why I'd hurry and guzzle it down.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. All right. All right, I've been telling you for 2 weeks I was going to tell you this story, and we kept coming up with good reasons why I didn't have to anymore. But when we come back, I'm going to tell you the story of Cruiser. And that was his nickname. And if you know who that is by his nickname, I'm okay with that. Or I don't have to use his name. Maybe I should when I come back. I don't know. What do I do about that? He's dead.
It didn't make any, well, yeah, but it's, I don't know. It's up to you, but it doesn't make any difference. It's the story that you're going to tell that's more important than his name.
Yeah. So I'll just call him Bob.
Okay.
No offense, Bob. I'll call him Dick. No, Dick. Dick has negative. Give me a name. Mark. We'll call him Mark.
Okay.
Is that all right? And this man changed my life, but not from a good way. You know, this was the lesson I learned that I really would have preferred to avoid learning. And not only did I want to avoid Mark's lesson, but I really wanted to avoid it the week that I had to learn it, because it was the same week that my mother-in-law died. And my mother-in-law was extremely important to me. And if you thought she was important to me, she was infinity times important to my wife and her family. And so on a Friday, we buried Mark. And on a Sunday, we buried my mother-in-law. And I can't begin to tell you the emotions of that week, the first funeral, the day in between, and then the day of the funeral. My mother-in-law had nothing to do with alcohol. It never touched her lips. Mark, that's a different story. I'll share it with you next here live on Restoring Hope Live, brought to you by Powell, CDC, and Unity Point, here on WebcastOneLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
All right, welcome. 22 minutes before the top of the hour, and Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff from Westkirk Presbyterian Church and True Blue. You know, it's funny, for those of you that are listening on the radio, we appreciate that very, very much, and we thank you. This is also broadcast on a website. It's called a webcast, and I call it Passionate Radio with Pictures. Because if you go to our website or you tune in right now live to one of our websites, you'll not only hear us, but you'll see us. Well, I'm not a visual person. I'm an auditory person. And so if I forget sometimes that this camera's on me and people can see, and I was watching a couple of the shows over the weekend, I have some of the worst manners for a guy with a camera on him, chewing on this and picking that. And anyway, so I apologize. I'm not a trained TV guy. I don't care about the visual. We do the visual because we want to be transparent.
Just makes you real, Mac. That's all.
That's all I want to do. I mean, that's why we really put the cameras on here. We don't do anything with the cameras. I mean, Ryan, if he wanted to get cute, he could turn me upside down and make me fatter and make me skinnier and slide it in and out and all kinds of graphics and all that stuff. We do it for the transparency.
Hey, I'd go for the thin one. He could make me thin.
He did. You are on the thin camera. Yeah. Your camera makes you look 20 pounds lighter.
Good.
For me, I only weigh 126 pounds, but on camera I look like 226. I mean, look at that. It's horrible. I have man boobs. I don't get that. There we go. All right. I'm pretty visible in my church. I wear Jesus on my sleeve. And I love to serve, because that was a characteristic that I did not have, as Mike calls it, the pre-Mac Mac. The pre-Mac Mac, if you said, would you do something for me, I'd say, what's in it for me? You know what I'm worth an hour? Oh, I was arrogant. I remember I used to tell people, you know what I make an hour? If you want to pay me that hourly wage, then I'll be glad to come in and serve your breakfast or clean your bathrooms or do whatever. But, you know, I'm important. What I really was impotent. So I love to serve. And I'm in my church 6 days a week. I'm making meals for the staff. I'm making meals for funerals. I'm reading on the altar. I'm doing the collection plates. I'm ushering. I'm welcoming. I'm doing whatever they ask me to do. And about a year ago, I guess, Mark started coming to the church that I came to. And decided that I was somebody that he wanted to spend some time with, and I welcome that. And so Mark and I started spending some time together, and I found out through him that he had never drank before in his life. I'm just telling you, hang with me. Mark told me, I never drank in my life, but I retire, and now all of a sudden I'm bored and I want to drink, and my wife doesn't like it, and so I told her I'd come to AA and 12-step program and try to get rid of this, and if you could help me, I'd appreciate it. And we have what we call sponsorship. And so I said, well, if you'd like me to be your sponsor, I would. Sure, what does that mean? And I explained it. Oh, that'd be great. And jump in any time here, because you saw this like I did. It appeared that Mark was really working the program. No? Oh, she just raised her eyes to me.
Well, from what point?
Well, he came to meetings.
Yeah, but, okay.
Go ahead.
I just don't think he behaved well at some meetings.
Okay. That's true, he didn't. The fact so Mark would always sit by me, because Mark would not behave correctly around women. He was 64 years old. And I don't think he was a bad dude when it came to that. Mm-hmm. I think it was probably more like a Southern gentleman and didn't really know the rules of a 21st century. You didn't go up and hug a woman unless she invited you. You just stayed away, because that's called icky nowadays. Mm-hmm. After I began having Mark sit by me, it was evident to me odor-wise that this man was consuming alcohol. In fact, I literally think the cup of coffee, the container that he brought to meetings, which we were to believe was coffee, I really think that was some type of colored alcohol because it just smelled like that. And people would come up to me, some of my mentors, the people that I look up to, your husband, you, Rod, some of those guys, they'd come up and they'd say, I just want to help you as a new sponsor. You know, Mark was my third sponsoree, third sponsoree. And you know he's drinking. Well, I smell it. No, Mac, he's drinking. He's drunk in that very chair. And see, that's probably where I fell short.
Well, it's hard, especially if you're working with them. You want to believe that what they're telling you is the truth. And, you know, I have smelled liquor on so many people, and I keep thinking to myself, maybe it's just the perfume that they wore, cologne, or I make up all these excuses in my head because I don't want them to be drinking.
Yeah. Well, and Mark would always take a lozenge out of his coat pocket and unwrap it and put it in his mouth. And so I tried to, no, I didn't try. I did. I defended him by saying maybe that's just his cough drop smell. I mean, do we have to just assume he's drinking?
Most people that put those cough drops in their mouth are the ones that are, or put gum in their mouth, are the ones that are drinking.
I learn every day that goes by. So it'd be about 8 weeks ago now. All right. Mark had become, well, what happened was in a meeting, he sat there and it was his turn to share, and he said, I'm so sad, I'm so depressed, I just can't seem to get on top of it, and this program isn't working, and my wife's not happy with me, and my kids aren't happy, and I just don't know what to do. And I'm sober now, he says. I'm not drinking, he says. And after that meeting, a couple of guys went up to him and say, are you sure you're not drinking? No, I haven't had a drink. I don't know. What's your sobriety date? Well, then he'd start pushing back because, Lila, what's your sobriety date?
January 1st, 1986.
Yeah, May 10th, 2010. An alcoholic knows that date. They don't ever forget that date. Mark just kind of fudged around it. So Mark left, and a couple of the guys came up to me, and I appreciate this because these are my, what are they? These are my mentors. And they'd say, Mac, you need to talk to your sponsoree. You need to find out what's going on. He's coming to meetings. He's drunk. He's lying about it. We don't care if he comes to the meetings drinking because he's here and he's listening. He's active. But when he comes and he's lying the fact that he's drinking, that's not good. And so after the next Monday, one of the guys in the meeting came up to him and said, hey, listen, Mark, I don't care if you're drinking or not. And, of course, he starts pushing back visually. He said, I just don't want you to get in that car and drive down that road because my wife and daughter are on that road at noon when you get out of this meeting, or 1 or whenever it is. And you're going to hurt them. And he pushed back, and an argument ensued, and he said in front of the other guys, listen, this is my sponsor. He knows what I'm doing. I'm taken care of. And I just said to him, I said, you're drinking. And then he was appalled at me. And I said, let's go. I've got a portable breathalyzer down at one of my businesses. Let's go, and we'll do it. And then he pushed me away, and he got in his truck, and he drove away. And for the next several days, maybe a week, I would text him every morning, meeting today, noon, here's the location. If you're not drunk, I'll meet you there. And for the first couple days, he would argue back with me and tell me how sad I was making him. And I said I was going to talk to his wife. Don't you dare talk to my wife. You get away. You're a horrible person. You're playing God. You're judging, et cetera, et cetera. And then the communication from him stopped. But I sent every morning I'd send, here's where the meeting is today at noon. If you're not drunk, will you meet me there? And I'd never hear back from him. Well, on St. Patty's Day, I got a call early in the morning from a friend named Tom. And he told me that Mark had died, that his body had just shut down over that course of time. And I then found out who Mark really was. And Mark was an incredibly successful businessman here in town. And he was constantly in trouble for drinking.
Oh.
Constantly.
Really?
In fact, at one point, his employer had to hide, or you're a minute early. No, you're not. Never mind. Had to hide or cover up the fact that he, in a vehicle drunk, leaving work, hit a couple girls in a car several years ago.
Whoa.
And that his alcoholism was widespread and everybody knew it except Mark. So what was that funeral like? I'll tell you about that. And then yesterday, I went from a baptism to the funeral of a guy who put a gun to his head within an hour. The emotions were incredible. I'll share that with you next here on The Truth.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
10 before the top, Salem Radio Network News. We're going to run out of time. I need to keep moving here because I'm taking up all the time. So the same day, St. Patty's Day, we got word several hours after that my mother-in-law died unexpectedly. And the reason I say unexpectedly is she had been very ill. But we thought she was out of it. In fact, to the point where my wife decided to take a little vacation, some downtime. She was 60 days maybe away from moving back home. And in the middle of the night, Jesus called her, and she went home. And she was the matriarch of the family. And I think you probably had that with your grandma Coco.
Yeah.
Didn't you? She was like the matriarch.
Mm-hmm.
And when she died, the ink and the chalk just spread through everybody. You and I have talked a lot, and I don't think I'm turning anything too personal over here, but you still think about her today.
Oh, yeah.
She was very important to you. My wife will never forget her mother. It was just incredible. So on Friday, I've got to go to the funeral of this guy who I know drank himself to death. And then on Sunday, I get to go to a funeral of a 91-year-old woman who lived every inch of life just amazingly. She's the closest person to Jesus I'd ever met. And I sat in Mark's funeral, and not one thing was said about alcohol.
Oh, that just kills me.
And yet every picture, literally, Lila, almost every picture, I won't say every, almost every picture was him having fun with a big smile, hunting, fishing with his grandkids, always a drink in his hand. Mm-hmm. And yet nobody had enough guts to stand up there and say, and they don't need to say, y'all know what Mark really died of, don't you? But they could have said, and Uncle Mark or Dad, I wish you would have drank a little less, but I want you to know I loved you the same. So yesterday, our twins were baptized, Emerson and Anderson. And so we go to a church, and here's these kids up there with their mom and dad, and twins are the best. I mean, they're just the best, especially a boy and a girl, you know. And the baptism of these two, and I don't know how you feel about baptism, but baptism is extremely sensitive to me because it's the thing that Jesus did himself. He himself got baptized by John the Baptist. So we would all know how important baptism is. Because he could have said, Let me see. The baptism is to fill me with the Holy Spirit. I am the Holy Spirit, so I'll skip that move. So baptism is crucial, especially to those of us that stood around and said, we will be there to help raise them, to teach them the gospel, to give them a personal relationship. In the same suit, and I don't wear suits very often, so in the same suit, my wife in the same dress, we walked out of an incredibly happy occasion, and an hour later we were standing in a funeral home of a 60-year-old man who could not quit drinking, who had put a gun to his head and killed himself. And there in the front row of that funeral was his kids? No, his mom and dad. His mom had to bury him. And I ran into this man. The only rock concert you'll ever get me to go out, stay out late night is REO Speedwagon. Because many, many years ago, I got to interview Kevin Cronin. This will tell you how long it was. Q102.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And he came to the radio station and let me interview him. And that was about the coolest thing I'd ever had. Yeah. And so I always go out and see these guys. And you know what? That Cronin guy still remembers me. And he doesn't remember me. Oh, it's Des Moines there. No. Hey, Mac. How are you? So I'm backstage at REO Speedwagon, and I'm looking out into the crowd, and who's drunk, standing on chairs, screaming, yelling, doing what he does? My friend. And so I went out to my friend, and I got him to sit down. No, I quit. Remember, I told you I quit. Oh, yeah. I said, you need to come to an AA meeting with me. It's time. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't. And, of course, I was a bad person for suggesting it. He'd push me away. I'd even hear from friends that I really offended him. Well, yesterday we buried him.
Yeah.
And he's even worse because he didn't die from the effects that alcohol had on his body like Mark did. He died by a bullet, self-inflicted, into his head because he couldn't cope anymore.
It's usually, I don't know what the percentage is, but suicides, it's over half the people have alcohol in them.
When they commit suicide. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so here I come home after this, and I write a blog about it, and I don't say his name, just like I'm not saying his name here. And his sister-in-law read the blog, and her exact words to me were, "Thank you for writing it. It just hurts so much to see the truth." So I took the blog down. I took the blog down, and I'll put it up later, but maybe the day after. But I was thankful she said thank you. Yeah. It just hurts too much to see the truth. So what's the story of Lila's 21-year-old friend and Bob's father and uncle and Mark and my guy yesterday? What's the story here? What's the reason? Here it is. Are you ready? This is tough. Can you handle it? I'm Jack Nicholson. Can you handle the truth? Alcohol kills. Now, if you're a normie and you can drink a half or one, or as I always like to say, when you get that buzz, you realize that's not a buzz you want, and so you quit, then it doesn't kill for you. And I'm not saying you should never have a drink, and I'm not saying you shouldn't enjoy a couple, three, whatever your limit is. But for those of us who 1 is too many and 11's not enough, it kills. It's the devil's tool. It's the accuser's way of getting in our mind and saturating it with, what did you call it, Bob? Poison. Mm-hmm. Poison. Poison that TV tells you if you'll drink, you'll be sexier for the boys. Mm-hmm. And if you're a boy, all the good-looking girls will want you. And you'll be buff and sexy and happy and romantic, and life will be wonderful. I just wish once Budweiser would run a commercial with the drunk under the bridge that has no teeth and that tells you Budweiser ruined my life.
Yeah.
I doubt if we're ever going to see that. So that's what today's show's about. We always try to bring you a guest and have them tell their story about what life was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And right about this time in the show, we're all happy because we've heard this wonderful redeeming story. Today, there is no redeeming story except that of Christ. He does save. And whether it be a God of your understanding or whether you call him the name I call him, there's power in being powerless. There's hope. Call Lila. Call Powell. Call Bob. Call me. Don't be the next Mark. Please. There is help right before you. And if it's not you, you know who I'm talking about. It's somebody you love. There is help right before you. I can drive to your house in an hour. Let me help you. Let Lila help you. Let Bob help you. Let the God of your understanding help you. For all those folks who've gone before us and found the plug in the jug and continue on to help other people, God bless you. Thank you. And we'll see you next week here live on Restoring Hope Live. Until then, find somebody you need to forgive and forgive them, please. Because as you forgive, you shall be forgiven. Good night.
Restoring hope.